Hi, so this is the very first build I did when cottage living first came out, and I'm building on the lot called Cordelia's Secret Cottage. And if you didn't know, Cordelia is a princess in the Sims world, and she's not a townie as far as I'm aware in Sims 4, but she appears regularly in the build and buy catalog. And I know this because when I first started playing in The Sims, I used to read all the descriptions of the furniture pieces before placing it down. So I was really fascinated by this Cordelia figure, if you will, and built a few box-like mansions and dedicated it to her. So I find the name of this lot quite endearing, and I'm almost done with the exterior. And as you can see, the home is pretty tiny. I think it's under 100 tiles, and the color scheme I end up going for with this build is a darker colors because I wanted it to look a bit older, and a lot of the older houses I was looking at were darker with these sort of cobblestones as well. And anyway, I remember I was so excited from getting the new pond tool in the patch, and I definitely wanted to incorporate it into a build I did. So I end up putting it where you see the balcony on the side there, just on the edge, because I was looking at a lot of European townhouses where these sort of Tudor houses were built, and they were like along the stream sides with balconies hanging right by them, and it just looks so pretty, and I sort of wanted to build something like that. Um, on the balcony on the side of the lot, I combined the two doors so they look like French doors right there, and I put it in a pop of red color because I really like red as an accent in these sort of builds. Um, yeah, so you just see me fiddling around with the terrain tool over here, and oh my god, I was so happy we got the terrain tool finally for the pond area because before I was disguising pools to make fake ponds, and I just found it so frustrating with the landscaping because I could never really fully disguise it, and it just looked so unnatural. I was so happy that they also included like a gameplay interaction with the pond area as well. Like your Sims can go in, play by the water, and like search for frogs and stuff. And despite all the landscaping that I end up putting around the pond, the Sims that I play tested this with could definitely get in and do all those game interactions. And I think that's because the landscaping I pulled out is mostly from the debug menu, and your Sims can just walk through debug. Like, if there's a debug fence, your Sims can just like walk through it, no problem. So I think that's why. And the reason I used a lot of debug landscaping is because this lot is so heavily surrounded by forestry. I wanted to use the similar styles of bushes and flowers so it fit into the surroundings a bit better. And yeah, I also place a debug fence because it's got that round shape, so I thought it fit quite snugly around the pond. Like it was just there from the beginning, and yeah. Um, I also end up putting an old generator in the pond area, and I imagine that that's one source of power that the Sims living there can get when there's like a storm or some rainfall. And I really like when you go into like live mode, the generator turns, and I think it makes for an interesting look to the build. So I'm just going to be finishing up with the landscaping soon, and um, there wasn't much like space on the lot that I was building, and I realized it when I was just coming towards the end of landscaping after I put the pond tool down. But I do manage to sneak in a chicken coop later on when I'm furnishing the house, so there is a bit of functionality to the lot that I'm building in terms of like, I don't know, income and like gardening and stuff. And your Sims don't need gardening patches when they're planting, they just need ground. So I guess if you decide to plant a few crops and stuff, you can just do it. I think we're almost done with the exterior, and I should be heading inside soon. And I haven't really talked about the type of Sim I imagine living here, but I imagined an elder Sim, possibly a grandma living here, and she has a granddaughter that she's really close with who comes to stay with her over the summer break, and they just sort of enjoy each other's company and enjoy the quiet countryside and all the bunnies that live in this area. So I didn't include the floor plan in this build, but I ended up with two small bedrooms and a little craft area where you can see the balcony over the water there. And yeah, since this is a tiny home, the living area is very cramped, but I think it makes for a cozy look. And like I said, this was the first build I did with the cottage living pack, so I went all out with their furniture, and it really blended in nicely with the stuff we got in Cats and Dogs, which is another country-esque, like England vibe, older style, and I think even the colors meshed in quite well. Like a lot of it, like not in terms of swatches and wood swatches, but in terms of the tones that we got. I think it was all very fitting and it tied in very nicely in my opinion. In the kitchen, I debated whether I wanted tiling or not, but I figured that this granny wallpaper made more sense, so I kept that. And I paired the counters from Cottage Living with the cabinets from the Country Kitchen Kit, which has this open shelf with dishes on it. And I use that a lot when I don't have enough counter space to put dish racks on. And I don't really clutter up the space too much because this kitchen is the bare minimum for your Sims to be able to cook. So I didn't want to run into any problems for when my Sims were living there. And lastly, I think I remember putting a fire alarm, and I kept the trash can just outside the kitchen area because I was wary that this was a very cramped space. So I wanted to make sure that everything would work, and I thought the safest bet was to just place the trash can outside near the kitchen. And yeah, I'm just cluttering up the space, putting down a rug, and I think I put a orange painting on the wall. Oh, I already did. Um, Moving on to the dining space, I have four chairs, but there's only three is functional because I end up putting a shelving unit with lots of clutter items, and unfortunately, my Sims couldn't get to it. But all the other three chairs work, and like I said, this home is built for two Sims, so I think it should be fine. Like, even when your Sims have guests over, oh, they always end up like going to sit on the couch and eat, or worse, they stand around and eat, and it really frustrates me when they do that. But ugh, yeah, so I don't think it'll impact that kind of gameplay too much. That's already bugged out. So yeah, and as you can see, I put down four different chairs because I wanted it to feel a little eclectic, and I thought maybe the grandma had been living here like forever, and as time went by, some of the dining chairs broke and she had to replace them one by one, so she ended up with all these mismatched chairs, and I think that's kind of a fun narrative I came up with. Um, yeah, so just finishing up the touches with the clutter items on the shelving that we got with the laundry pack, and I move on into the living space. And in the living space, I forgot to put in a fireplace initially because I forgot that I had a chimney on the exterior. So after I finish furnishing the inside and move on to sort of polish the outdoor area, I realized in hindsight and quickly deleted all the clutter I painstakingly placed on this side table and replaced it with a fireplace. And I know some people have a problem with fireplaces in interior walls as opposed to like walls that connect to the exterior, but I didn't it doesn't really bother me too much. I think that's like one of the perks of building in The Sims. We can have all the aesthetic we want without having to think about functionality like plumbing and where the power lines are going to go. And I really like how I sized up those yarns, those balls of yarns that we got in the Nifty Knitting Kit as like a clutter item in the shelving unit. Yeah, I think it was quite cute. And here I just finish up with the cluttering in the corner there, and moving on to the bathroom. This is one of the few bathrooms I had a bit of fun in, but it's very minimal clutter. I just end up, yeah, sizing up that painting and putting it by the bath, and very standard, my go-to bathroom layout. I know it functions, it's tried and true, and yeah, that's all. That's I think that's about it for the bathroom. And in the upstairs, like I said, the bedrooms are quite cramped, and this is the sort of master bedroom, and it's for the granny that I imagined living here. And since there wasn't a lot of space, I sort of made that little awkward nook, like that corner area, into an open wardrobe, and I stacked up those side tables we got in base game to make a sort of tall dresser, kind of like the one we got in Tiny Living. And I thought it was quite clever when I did it. And yeah, but on the foot of the bed, I just clutter it up some more, and I include that TV again. And I think your Sims can lay down on the side of the um, bed and watch TV. So, like in terms of functionality, I think it still functions. And yeah, just cluttering up the space and getting ready to move on into the kids' bedroom. In the kids' bedroom, I kept the color scheme as pink and blue because I really like those two colors together, especially when they're in those lighter swatches. I think it's it's both very girly and it's very. I really like that color combo. And yeah, so I just clutter it up a little bit with toys and that toy box also we got in the Parenthood pack. It doesn't function, but I think it makes for nice clutter. Yeah, so I'm just pulling out some debug items and putting up like sort of arts and crafts that I imagined the kid made when she was over. And yeah, those fairy lights as well. I Those fairy lights are also from the Parenthood pack. Parenthood pack is just really good for furnishing. And yeah, this is my favorite room. This is the crafts area, and I end up putting a desk that we got in Nifty Knitting, carrying on that red theme. I put with the French doors, since they're not double doors. Even though there is a desk, your Sims can still walk through it and access the balcony where I put an easel. I think it'd be so cool to be able to like paint and do crafts in a balcony like that, just overlooking a nice country view. And yeah, just finishing up the upstairs with a couch and a bookshelf so that your Sims can just sit and read. This is nearing the end of my build, so if you like this video and you like this sort of build and you want to see more, you can subscribe if you want. Yeah, and I hope you enjoy the screenshots. Bye!